Good morning and welcome to Tirana, the capital of Albania. We're probably about a kilometre in this direction to Skanderbeg Square, so a little bit outside the city centre. Well, we're in the city centre. And I'm just going to take you for a walk and have a little talk about how we found Albania. It's an interesting little apartment block there with a sort of staggered balcony system. And that probably leads me into an interesting, or a point of interest maybe for any of you that are thinking of coming here, is how do you find places to stay? And I'm going to discuss also money, transportation, see if I can remember everything. A lot of people that I've spoken to seem a little confused as to where Albania is. And to be honest, a month or so ago, I'd have struggled to find it on the map myself. Fascinating is that I didn't expect it to be where it was. I mean, if you look at the map of Italy, we know that Italy is like a boot, and Albania is down opposite the heel of Italy. So it's Mediterranean, Adriatic, I'm not sure. These guys are going to continue to stop and start in front of me, and they're having a lovely animated discussion. The people here are lovely. You are going to find Albanians very friendly. Apartments, okay, or hotels. The apps of choice when you're looking for a place to stay here seem to be Airbnb and Booking. You can look at other apps. They're stopping again. Having a great talk, but I'm pigeon-toed to try and stay a little bit behind them. Very animated, having a big discussion, but the problem is if I catch up with them, they're going to be louder than I am. You can see by the clothing people are wearing, they're stopping again. He wants to tell him something and they're off again. There is no way. These guys might as well be. I don't think I've ever walked in a place where they seem to be magnetically connected with me. If I slow down, they stop, see? If I speed up, they'll come alongside me. Let me get past them. Excuse me, guys. Oh, and here they come. Now, all over the streets, you're going to see these bins. 2 blues, 1 greens. I'm guessing the green is for organic, and the blue for general. I haven't, for example, where we're staying at the moment, it wasn't easy to find anywhere to put our rubbish or garbage. So I've brought it out in bags and just put it into these bins. There are some at every major corner. Let's head down here. So Skanderbeg Square is just down there. There's a tall building. I don't know if you can see, that's on the square. I'm hoping it's not going to rain. There we go, we're getting a raindrop again. It is currently sort of end of November, I think maybe 27th, 28th, 29th of November. Let me just check actually the date. 30th of November. So we're heading up to December. The weather is cold with occasional rain, but not unbearable. Not unbearable at all. I find it, I've just got a couple of layers on, 3 layers. So if you're looking for a place to stay, it's going to rain, and I've got the 360 camera, which is a raindrop magnet, so it may not work today. Otherwise, you're going to have these water splatters all over the lens. It's a nice little quiet street. So we picked Albania as a destination almost by chance, really. The planning, as often is the case for Michelle and I, is fairly simple. We were hoping it would be a little bit warmer, being right down here at the base of Italy. We should have known really that it wasn't going to be, because we spent quite a few months in Sicily some maybe 4 or 5 Christmases ago, and just like here, everybody was wearing the big padded jackets in Sicily as well. So it's to be expected. Now, you do actually get snow in the mountains around us. I think even in this city of Tirana you can see snow sort of January, February time. A lot of citrus fruits. It's a lovely old wall here, and the oranges are just in season, just going out of season actually. You can see a little bit of mold starting to come on the oranges on the tree, so getting to the end of the season, but a lot of citrus around. So when we first come to a country, it's always trying to find accommodation is our first, I wouldn't say it's our first problem, but it's our first point that we have to deal with. And initially we were finding Airbnb had some fairly good deals. Look at the mandarins and tangerines and oranges, around about 60 lek for a kilo. Little cobblers here. But we also found that in addition to Airbnb, almost all the properties are on booking.com as well. So quite often if you find a property on Airbnb, you can use, if they say pretty 2-bedroom apartment in central Tirana, if you use that term and search it on Google, it'll come up also on booking.com. That's probably not a good example, but if they use sunrise apartment to Tirana on Airbnb, it'll also come up on Booking, and then you can look between the two. The one thing here is the monetary payment system is a little bit tricky. They generally want cash even for the apartments, although some of them do take, it's an interesting little street, isn't it? All sorts of little trades going on. So for example, the apartment we're in right now, we got this through booking.com. They actually said no cash, card only. And yet when we arrived here, they said they don't accept cards, they only wanted cash. And that leaves you with another little problem, because withdrawing cash from the ATMs here is expensive. You know, there's a fee every time you do withdrawal. Using your card is same as anywhere in the world. You'll either get charges or you won't, depending on the card that you have. Possibly the best way to get cash or get local currency here is to go to one of these exchange booths, and they give very good rates, very similar to those that you'd see. Oh, you're squeezing by. So yeah, very similar to the rates that you'd see online. So if you're coming here for just a few weeks or a month, I'd suggest bringing enough cash so that you can get currency exchange here. They also accept euros for almost everything in the big cities, but it's my experience that as soon as they start asking for euros, the prices go up. So like anywhere in the world where you see countries that want US dollars that don't normally have US dollars, or countries here where the lek is the common currency and they start asking for euros, is because they're asking tourist prices. So try and purchase things. Look at this market here. Let's have a little walk around. So try and purchase things in the local lek currency. rather than in euros, because that way you'll be getting better prices. But then you need lek. So you've either got to withdraw it from an ATM, and there could be a several dollar fee each time you use the ATMs, or you've got to have currency here. If you're looking for apartments, as I've just said, quite often they'll advertise that they take credit cards, but don't expect that to be the case when you get there. You can argue the point, but then it becomes an issue of how do you pay without being charged extra fees. It's a funny country. I mean, I'm finding it at the moment that generally it's a burgeoning, sort of like a growing tourist industry. So while things are generally quite inexpensive, at the same time, when they start talking about euros, things get quite expensive. So there's a debate at the moment whether all different sorts of tobaccos here, look, just loose tobaccos. Interesting. Pipe tobaccos, cigarette tobaccos. And this is the delicious mountain tea. Chai Mali, mountain tea. It's really nice. Maybe talk about that at another time. Now it's cold enough that I'm getting a bit of a sniffle. So yeah, it's a growing market, and you're right on the cusp of getting completely ripped off for almost everything you purchase to being really inexpensive and good value. So you have to sort of play with those two things. For example, I know people that are here at the moment that are able to find apartments to rent for as little as 300 euros a month, and people renting exactly the same apartments for as much as 700 or 800 euros a month. So you can really get quite a diverse cost. I mean, it's a huge difference for exactly the same type of accommodation. And I think here in Tirana you might actually expect things to be a little more expensive, but because there's more here, as a rule, I think the prices are fairly competitive. So if I give you an example, the apartment that we're in at the moment, we managed to find through booking.com, and we are paying around about 150 euros for a week for an all-inclusive apartment with a kitchen, a balcony with a nice view. So that's working out, what, give or take, around about 600 a month, but that's short-term rental, including heating and internet and the likes. And the way you find those apartments is by basically Googling a bit between the Airbnbs and the booking.com prices, and just look to see what the reviews are like. I mean, at the end of the day, if the reviews are bad, generally the property is going to be a little bit sketchy. If the reviews are good, and I don't mean just one or two reviews, because one or two reviews is easy to fake. I've been past here in a video earlier on, but this is like a barbecue. It's a lovely smell, great place to sit and eat. So we're heading further into the city centre. Come across at a sort of parallel to the city centre, and now I'm heading right down into the city centre. So yeah, firstly, the question I'm often asked is, where is Albania? A lot of people think it's up near Romania and sort of the central eastern side of the Balkans, but it's actually the southern tip of the Balkans. Weather, it is not warm. It is a lot colder than I expected. We're getting temperatures down to 2 degrees Celsius at night, and even in the daytime we've had temperatures as low as sort of 5 or 6. Today I would say it's probably up near the sort of 10 degrees, so quite pleasant. You can get warmer weather if you just head down, I think, towards Greece and Turkey. You'll get warmer weather, but this is not unbearable. It's quite pleasant weather. So we covered ATM fees, we covered expectations of the weather. I've talked a little bit about the apartment we're in. What else did I want to discuss? Firstly, I'm giving you a little look around the centre of Albania. Quite a plain city centre. Now, I might get into, I might get into trouble for saying that, but this isn't like, this is the capital of Albania. It isn't like London or Paris. There aren't a huge amount of sort of impressive landmarks here. Even the opera centre in the centre is kind of fairly plain. Oh, here I go. I'm saying stuff now that's going to get me in all sorts of bother. But you have to remember, I said recently in a video, in recent times, this was a communist state. And somebody said, it's not recent, it's 30 years ago. And I'm thinking, well, that is recent, because there's still a lot of people that will have grown up in a communist state. So people in their 50s that lived and experienced the communist state here in Albania. And the effects of communism did not end in 1990, although the communist regime fell. It will have taken many years, decades perhaps even, to repair itself. Let's head down towards the square. You can see here, look at the architecture. It's not unpleasant, but it's also, it's not outstanding in any way. You know, it's modern, almost 70s style, aggressive, modern architecture. Now, for those of you that don't know the history of Albania, for many years it was under the dictatorship of Enver Hoxha. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name right, but he was a fairly fierce dictator from after the Second World War all the way up until his death in 1985. And the communist regime continued here in Albania right up until 1991, when things started to change. But during that period, so during that entire period, he ruled with a fairly iron fist. There was no tolerance for religion or ownership or independence. I think at the time of his passing, over a third of the people here in Albania had at some point been victims of his correctional camps or imprisonment for the smallest of things. I believe there was at one time somebody who just commented, what's the island at the bottom? I want to say Corsica, but it's not Corsica. So I might have to put that island in. But he just was stood on the coast and said, why have they got lighthouses and we haven't? And that was seen as a knocking the regime, so he was imprisoned. So it was a pretty harsh regime to live under. And there are still many tens of thousands of people that are in living memory of that regime. So it is fairly recent. But what I'm getting at is, so the architecture is quite stark. Now I'm right in the centre now. You're going to see where I've just done a little whiz around. I've got the 360. I could just pop it up here and do a spin. So I don't find it particularly endearing, the architecture. Now they're building whatever this is here. It's reminiscent of the 1970s and 80s, that sort of brutalist architecture that people are tearing down now in most modern Western cities. And yet here they are still in the process of building it. So we're almost at Skanderbeg Square, and I think I called this Unification Square, but what I was getting at actually is the concept of this piazza, this huge piazza here in the center of Tirana, was, or at least what they set out to do, was to sort of unify all the regions of Albania by including foliage and flora from every part of Albania. And also the square itself, each of the stones on the ground come from different parts. They unify the whole of Albania. So they've taken quarried stones from different parts and laid them down in the centre of the square, making quite an unusual pattern. Here to my left is a giant flagpole with a beautiful Albanian flag that often, when the wind is just right, unfoils and it looks quite glorious. And there is the Opera House. And again, kind of brutalist, little, dare I say, communistic looking. I'm not sure when it was built, maybe I can figure that out. They're erecting a fairground. There's a Christmas fair that's going to be here next week. I'm not sure whether we'll be here, I'm talking maybe just over a week from now. But there'll be a Christmas fair here. You can see the fairground. This is like a go-kart. That must be the platform for the go-karts there, look. So I think all these little log cabins have recently been erected, so there'll be Christmas stalls here. Yeah, look, this wasn't even here 2 or 3 days ago when Michelle and I walked through. The fairground rides are starting to come. Beautiful Christmas tree, or a Christmas tower in the centre. So you can imagine in a week's time, all these little booths selling Christmas delights. It's going to look absolutely beautiful, isn't it? Let me just check I haven't got too much water on my lens. Yeah, this is going to be quite the event. But again, look at the buildings. I saw another YouTube video, somebody quite some years ago stood here, and this tower was still being constructed a couple of years ago, so that's pretty slow construction. Now there is a mosque over here. I'm not sure how old it is, but I think it's got some age to it, so a little bit I'm surprised that managed to exist during the communist regime, because apparently there was very little tolerance for religious beliefs outside of the regime's beliefs. So there ahead of me is Skanderbeg. He is a warlord from the 1400s. And the square is named after him, Skanderbeg Square. See if I can get the camera up there. So Skanderbeg is going to be surrounded by a fairground attraction any day now. I think it's on the 6th of December, so 6 days next weekend. It'll be all set up and ready. This mosque here is fascinating because I had read that there was little to no tolerance of religion. So maybe somebody can fill us in the comments how churches and mosques managed to survive. Were they reappropriated? I love the way they're sort of, it's like a chantilly lace. These are these big umbrellas for sunshades. Let me have a little look here. Ethem Bey Mosque, restored by the Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Culture and Tourism, the Turkish Cooperation Coordination Agency. So, restored in 2021. So maybe it was not. Maybe it was not in existence during Hodges' regime. Perhaps not. Some of the stores are setting up over here already, a week early. Just a few of them. take a little look. Oh, sorry. Guys selling umbrellas. So is this a sign of what will be coming next week? Quite a lot of rain at the moment, which is a bit of a shame. Olive oil, figs, knitted clothing. So we are surrounded to our north by Montenegro and to our south by Greece. There's another country to our east side, and I forget the name, or I maybe haven't even checked out the reference, but you can cross into other countries from here. But we're really enjoying the experience of Albania at the moment. Now, of course, Mother Teresa, I think I'd be right in saying, originates from Albania. And of course, the infamous Kardashian family. I have to say I wouldn't recognise them if they were here in the square. I don't know what they are. I've just heard the name. And I believe also Jim Belushi and the Belushi family, or James Belushi as well, a favourite actor of mine when he was around. So yes, we can certainly look at land crossings. Another country we've never been to before, and it always surprises me to say it, to be honest, because we've been so close to it so many times, and there's almost no reason why we shouldn't have been there. Greece. So I think there's a strong possibility we will go to Greece. I've said to Michelle, if we can, we really should. I've always wanted to go to Greece, and we are so close. But I also want to explore a little bit. Well, this is the traditional Albanian clothing. This bus is always parked here, or it has been the last few times I've walked down. We've only been here at 10 days or so now. What is this here? This is a grand looking fellow. Is that Skanderbeg again? It's a lovely looking statue. He's got like a musket in his belt, and a sword by his side, and a scroll. I'm going to guess that's another statue of Skanderbeg, but I could be wrong. So yeah, if you're thinking of coming here, I highly recommend it. Michelle and I are having a good time here, and we're going to spend a little bit of time exploring Albania. We're going to go to some other cities in Albania. I do think at the moment I'm finding Tirana is clearly quite a touristic city, so maybe it hasn't got some of the charms that some of the smaller cities have. So we want to get out and explore some of the smaller cities, which we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to stay another week here in Tirana, maybe do a bit more exploring around, and then we're going to head to, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, if you want to comment down below, this video will be going up probably tomorrow, so you'll be able to tell me if there's any other ideas you have. I feel there's a whole lot more I should have been discussing. Sometimes I need to do live streams so people can interact with me and I can answer questions. Check out for our live streams. Hit the subscribe, hit the notification bell so you do get notified if there's a live stream. Make sure also that on your Google account you have notifications turned on, because those notifications won't come through unless you've got them switched on your Google account. I'm going to walk a little bit up this high street because I want to talk to you a bit more about the costs of living here in Tirana, because there is a stark contrast between what you might expect and what you might find in reality. We've generally found some of the costs here are remarkably low and some of them are remarkably high. And I think this often happens in developing countries where they're starting to aspire to be part of the European Union, and therefore they're trying to bring all their costs up. Now, a good example of this would be if you go into there's a big supermarket over the road here. I'm not going to go in there at the moment, but let's just wait. How many seconds have we got? 12 seconds and we can cross this road. People are fairly obedient. They do wait for the lights to change before they cross as well, which isn't always the case. They might jump it a little bit early. So here's a good example. You might find it a bit of a strange example. There's a local Twix bar that you can buy here in most of the supermarkets for under 30 lek. So we're talking like 30 cents a Twix. And they're as good as Twix. They're easily as good as Twix. In some ways, they're slightly nicer. And then you can buy Twix bars, imported Twix bars, and they'll be about 120, sometimes as much as 150 leks for exactly the same product. But this is a corporately owned global product. And I think what happens in these countries, people want to aspire to get all the big brands in, the Coca-Colas and all the Mars brands. And what you see then is more local products that have been here for decades eventually get taken off the shelves, taken over, closed down. So you can buy a Twix here in Tirana if you buy the local product for under 30 cents. And if you buy the imported overseas product, it'll cost you over $1.20, say €1.20. Now, what does that mean? What it means basically is in 10 years from now, the local product won't be here. You'll only be able to buy Twix. 100% sure that'll be the case, as it is in almost every other European country. You'll have a sort of amalgamation, a sort of like a blending, vanillaing of all the different products. So yeah, get here now while there still are some of those lovely, unique Albanian experiences to be had. Because 10 years from now, Albania, Portugal, France, Italy, they're all going to have Aldis and Lidls. They're all going to have the same supermarkets, and the produce are going to be the same prices in every square inch of the country. So get here now, enjoy it. And I suppose what I would say to Albanians, not that they'll listen to me, is resist being part of that. Resist being part of that as best you can. Because everything that is beautiful about this country is very quickly eroded under globalization. And I know that a lot of people will say, well, why shouldn't we have everything that other parts of Europe have got? And there's an argument to be said for that as well. So we found some things to be incredibly good value, and yet I've noticed from what I've been spending, and we're not overly spending, we are having coffees out and we are eating out on a fairly regular basis, but we're certainly spending more here in Albania in the 2 weeks than we would have in many other parts of the world. In fact, I think we've spent more on a fairly, we haven't been having lavish meals out, just eating local food. So yes, I was doing my accounts, I was roughly working out in my head what we'd spent. We probably spent more here in 2 weeks than we spent, for example, in France in 2 weeks. And France is well ingrained and well established in the European community. So we could spend a great deal less, because I've seen there are examples of places that are selling more local produce, local foods. And I think also when you get out of Tirana, the general costs may become lower, but it's very easy to spend, say, €1,000. It's very easy to spend €1,000 here just on general sort of eating out and groceries. That can be done quite quickly, as I've discovered. And a good example, actually, I might just... So that's the city centre. Now, if you go into the city centre and walk down towards Skanderbeg Square, you will see a whole bunch of greengrocers that don't have their prices on their fruits and vegetables. Whereas here, just about 100 meters back up towards the residential areas, you have a look here. 80 a kilo, 60 a kilo, 90 a kilo. The prices, they might be only written on cardboard, but they're clearly marked. I've noticed that as you get more towards that side of the city, almost all of the greengrocer shops, they don't have the prices on there. And for the same produce, if I pick up a kilo of mandarins, they're almost certainly going to charge me on the high end of what the prices can plausibly be. So maybe 150 a kilo for the same 60 cents mandarins here. I also noticed that the bakeries that end of town, so I'm trying to, maybe I can put up a Google map and sort of show you the area that I'm talking about. The bakeries down that side of town don't have the prices up, whereas a bakery just here, from here up, all the bakeries will have the individual prices of the cakes and pastries clearly marked, so you know what everyone's paying. And I made the mistake just a day or so ago of popping into a pastry shop. Actually, there's a butcher's here. I might stop and get some meat. So I made a mistake of going in and just grabbing a few pastries. We were a little bit hungry, from a shop that had no markings on there at all. And it charged me 300 or 400 lek, which was, I'm 100% sure, if I'd bought it up this side, would have been closer to 180. So bear that in mind. Things are changing, and they're probably changing quickly and not necessarily for the better. But we will explore more. We've only been here just over 10 days, so we've got a lot more to see, and I'll report back to you shortly. Take care. Up to you all. See you on the road here in Albania.